Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffe Kennedy, author of fantasy, romance, and romantic fantasy. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. I got my shipment of cocoa truffle Nespresso, and it's so good, you guys. Why was I depriving myself? Because I had so much of the plain ristretto that needed to be drunk up. But now it is drunk, and I might just have cocoa truffle for the rest of my life. I'm just going to sit here and drink my coffee, you guys. You talk. Tell me about you. How was your life? How was your weekend? All right. Along those lines, today is Monday, July 19th. Hope it's a good Monday for you all, that you are all in your various saddles, as it were. I had a nice weekend. I had a laid back weekend. I am finally discovering, I want to say realizing, and I feel like people don't understand what I mean when I say that, but I'm realizing the benefits of having someone come clean my house. Someone's. Um, we've been doing that. I know since May, maybe since late April, and I mean they're still working their way through deep cleaning all the things. You guys, these gals, they're so amazing. They wash the windows. They wash out inside the refrigerator. They like pull stuff out of the bottom of the pantry and vacuum out in there. Um, so my mom was very upset. I don't know if I told you guys this story, but when she had to get rid of her old housekeeper, um, who had who had gotten old and just wasn't able to do as good of a job. And so then she was trying out new ones. And one of the new ones was a gal who came in and said, "Well, your house is very dirty." And my mom was offended. And I said, "Well, don't." And she didn't like her. And I said, "Well, don't have her back. Get someone else. You don't need that kind of negativity in your life." But the thing is my mom's house is not really dirty. So when Rosa came to clean for the first time, and she said, "Well, it's really dirty," and my mom said, "Oh no," when I mentioned it to her, and I said, "No, no, it's okay because I know it is." I mean, that's the thing, is that I was able to sort of keep up with the surface clean, and even that was starting to feel like just a lot. But this kind of deep cleaning like that, I mean, I would periodically wash the windows, but like twice a year, and these things like wipe out the fridge only when it gets really terrible. All of those things. Pulling out the furniture and vacuuming underneath it, they do that. They just sort of work their way through the house, and there's just like backlogs of dust and things. So it's amazing. They're doing that, and I've this weekend I was just finally noticing that I had such a busy June with various things happening, and it was really nice that I didn't have to add cleaning the house to the list. And now it was really great to have a weekend where I didn't have any real chores I had to do, but I did organize something in the garage that had been bothering me. And so it frees me up to do those things. I went and did some shopping Saturday afternoon for David's birthday presents. That was kind of frustrating. It wasn't fun. I think shopping when you're looking for something in particular is usually not fun. But I did go to the post office, you guys. Friday afternoon, I got all of the books packed up, and Saturday I shipped them all. So, woohoo, big load off. And I did put a note on my to-do list that I'm just going to try to check every Friday afternoon for anything that needs to be packed up to be shipped. Um, Ultimately, I found that as much as I liked using the PayPal multi-shipping and not having to go to the post office, that was being more of a pain point than otherwise, because it takes a while to work through the screen on PayPal. It was just too much. Whereas what I did was I bought all these envelopes, so it was nice I didn't have to look for envelopes, and I got them set out, got my signing pen out, got my bookmarks out, and then I went back to the old days. I felt like when I worked for the environmental consulting firm, and we would do mailings, and I had mailing labels, and I, used the Avery label template in Word, and I put all of the addresses on there, and I printed out one sheet, stuck them on all of the various envelopes, and loaded them up with the books. Not necessarily in that order. I had to load up the books first because it depended on how many books affected the size of the mailing envelope. Then I affixed the label, and it was ready to go. And I just took my big tote bag into the post office, and it wasn't that huge of a deal. I mean, I had to wait, but the line wasn't hugely long, and just got it done. So, cheers. Yeah, it was really a load off to have that done. And I did a lot of reading this weekend, which was nice. And I'm trying to think of what else I did. I must not have done a whole lot. But it was good. I mean, I did a lot of little chores, and it was good to get those done. We were going to go to the lake, but then there was a flash flood watch, and it's not fun to be at the lake when there's been flooding upstream. You have to watch out for big chunks of things. So we decided, let's not do it. So yeah, it was nice. And on Friday, I think I was complaining last week that I had slowed down on Dragon's Daughter, and I was wondering if it was partly getting the Kindle Vella project Wedded to Darkness up, that it had drained me a bit. It's funny, some days you have the juice and some days you don't. And Friday, I got my 3,000 words on Dragon's Daughter in less than 3 hours. Just flowed right along. And I'm trying to do 250 words a day on Wedded to Darkness. That would let me put out about a 1,000 to 1,500 word episode a week. And I got that done. So I was feeling really good about all of that. And then I had several meetings on Friday evening. Oh, and I had a board meeting on Saturday, a SFO board meeting. So we didn't quite keep it to 1 hour, but it was 1 hour and 40 minutes, and we got a lot done, a lot planned. So it was good. All right. So let's see. The thing is I'm not sure I have much to say today. I'm very reassured by those of you who have commented that even when I feel like I don't have much to say, that you still get something out of what I have to say. So, unfortunately, my mind is something of a blank at the moment. Dragon's Daughter, I think you guys are going to laugh at me. Dragon's Daughter has a little bit of a different structure. And I laugh at myself. I have to have a little bit of sun coming in there, because I feel like I say that every time. Every book, it's just one of those things. Every book is a little bit different for whatever reason. It's what is art? Who am I? So yeah, it's been interesting writing Dragon's Daughter because it has such a different structure. But we're moving things along here, and I don't want to tell you what the different structure is because I don't want to spoiler it. But it really is true that each book you write has brings its own nest of problems to the table. I suppose if it doesn't, then you're just writing the same book over and over and over again. Which Sometimes there's something over here floating. I think it must be in a spider web. When it like looks like a leaf is just floating in midair, but it turns out it's on a spider thong. Either that or it's magic. Mm. That was something else I got done this weekend. Was doing a paid beta reading, and I also got splinters in my hands, a little cactus thorn, and I wrote up the report on that. It's hard sometimes to to give good critique, especially when it's something where someone's expecting it to be a beta read, and my reaction is beta read means that it's ready to almost ready to go, and I've ended up having to say that this book was not ready to go, unfortunately. And I'm trying to say I don't think I can speak to that, because I would take it would be too many specifics, and I don't want to do that. I have all of these things that I'm not saying today. One thing about story is is finding that internal consistency. And I know that this is something that I have spoken about before. And I think it's really hard. It's one of the challenges of writing a novel is to make sure that the things that you have in the story at the beginning are the things that you have at the end. And I'm not talking about, like character transformation, uh, those kinds of things, but simple details like, and I'm going to oversimplify, but things like what kind of car the person drives, um, what color eyes they have. Uh, if you bring up something at the end of the book, like that, let's say that the heroine has a troubled relationship with her mother. Actually, I could talk about this one. Yeah, like what is the heroine's relationship with her mother? How often does she communicate with her mother? Uh, this is something that needs to be consistent throughout the book and consistently touched upon, either or not in there at all. Either that or it could be something like they just don't talk. But if you have at different points in the book that somebody almost never talks to their family, and then another place you say, oh well, they only talk like once a month. At another point, it might say that their mother is too interfering and and is constantly calling. You see, all of those things can't be simultaneously true. If it changes through the book, that's fine. You can have it change through the book. But I see this kind of thing a lot, and it's basic craft. And I realize that it's a peril of novel writing because writing novels takes a long time. And by the time you get to the end of the book, you forget what was at the beginning of the book. And I mean, of course you forget. I mean, especially if you're a new writer, writing a book might take you a year. It might take you a couple of years. So of course you've forgotten. And, you know, Leslie Penelope mentioned this once a while back on her podcast, and we were joking about it, but it's the what happened to the dog syndrome. That at the beginning of the book, you have the dog, and at the end of the book, you realize that you haven't mentioned the dog in 300 pages. That apparently the dog is now dead because you left it locked in the garage 2 months ago in the book's timeline. And it's one of those oh shit moments. And that's when you go back and you revise and you layer in the dog. You layer in references to the dog. that's why revision is so important. And I say this as to someone who used to hate to revise it. I still don't love revising, but I used to, when I was a newbie writer, I would say that revising felt to me like fixing everything I got wrong the first time. And that's not inaccurate, but it's also a harsh way of looking at it, because it's not really that you get things wrong the first time or that you've made mistakes the first time, which is how it felt to me. It's that you just can't get everything right the first time. I have high expectations of myself that way. Um, so, and I know that other people probably feel this way, and it takes time. You don't want to spend that time revising when you could be writing another book and so forth, but you have to. Um, there are other syndromes of this are like when you have the heroine's treasured necklace that she wears all the time and never takes it off, and then you realize that even though you mentioned that at the beginning of the book, that this necklace that she never takes off is not in evidence again. Um, One thing that readers notice a lot is like if injuries disappear, it's easy to forget about injuries. It's like the person has their arm in a sling at the beginning of the book, and then later they're just fine. They're like waving their arms around and packing things around. You're like, what happened to that broken arm? You forget, and that's okay. You have to go back and fix it, put those things in. Uh, Sometimes, and this is me, you think of things at the end of the book that you want to have, like you want the hero to propose with the perfect ring that the heroine has always longed for. It's a nice romantic moment, shows that the hero is paying attention to what the heroine wants, and so forth. But the point is if you're going to have that at the end, and it's okay if you don't figure it out until the end, you still have to layer it, you have to seed it throughout the story. So you go back through, and what I do is I make a list. I have a list of these things, weave in this, layer in this, and I do a full pass. I go back and I read the story and I look for places to seed these things in, and it doesn't take much. It's small mentions, like, where her brother shares custody of the dog, and so she sends the dog off with the brother. There, dog's taken care of. Or, as she's out, she stops at she's going from one place to another. Have her go by the jewelry store window, and she sees the perfect ring, and she tells her friend, "Look, if I'm ever getting married, that's the ring I want." Or maybe she visits it daily, and so you seed these things in. Uh, I was teaching a workshop not long ago about keeping secrets and building suspense. And one of the gals asked me, is that something I do on revision? Do I go back and heighten things? Because I was talking about how useful it can be to have like countdowns, to have anything that that gives a sense of time slipping away, and that you can add even little countdowns throughout any time you feel like things are lagging. And she said, "Is that something you do?" Or asked, "Do you go back and put that in?" And I said, "I actually do, because I'm not a super heavy reviser, but that is one of the things I do on revision. Is I go in and I add things that intensify the secrets, and I add in countdowns, and I add in urgency, um, and I layer in things that I figured out at the end that I want to have in there, so that I'm seeding those reader expectations." Um, and then also consistency, looking for, like at the end of the book, if I've decided that, I'm trying to think of a recent example. Well, for those of you who have read Dark Wizard, this is a real world example. Was that I decided partway through the book that I wanted her to have something that she was doing to keep herself from thinking about him, and I liked the idea of stuff that people do for negative reinforcement. Uh, my my stepdaughter used to suck on her fingers, which is a habit I gave to Stella in the Heirs of Magic books. But and I was writing these, trading, and so it occurred to me as I was working on Dark Wizard, I thought, oh well, I want to give her a way to stop thinking about the wizard. And my stepdaughter, when we were trying to help her learn not to suck on her fingers, uh, had her put a rubber band around her wrist, and if she would start to put her fingers in her mouth, she would snap the rubber band, painfully against her wrist. So I gave something like that to Nick. I gave her a copper bracelet where she would press the fangs of this copper snake, into the skin of her wrist, so that she would stop thinking about him. And then I had to go back and layer in her deciding to do that and finding the bracelet and putting it on. And then I had to go through and find all these, because I realized at the end that I'd forgotten about the copper bracelet, that it had disappeared, what happened to the dog. And so then I had to go add that in. So all of these things happen on revision. It's just that's part of craft, part of making the book as good as it can be. And on that note, I will remind you all that First Cup of Coffee is part of the Frolic Media Podcast Network, and you will find more podcasts that you love at frolic.media/podcasts. And I will talk to you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.